I'm from Troy, and I'm going to lead us in a chant that was made famous by Assata Shakur, so I would like you to repeat after me. We have a duty to fight for our freedom.
We have a duty to fight for our freedom.
We have a duty to win.
We have a duty to win.
We must love and support one another.
We must love and support one another.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
We have a duty to fight for our freedom.
We have a duty to fight for our freedom.
We have a duty to win.
We have a duty to win.
We must love and support one another.
We must love and support one another.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
We have a duty to fight for our freedom.
We have a duty to fight for our freedom.
We have a duty to win.
We have a duty to win.
We must love and support one another.
We must love and support one another.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
Last time, it is our duty to fight for our freedom.
It is our duty to fight for our freedom.
It is our duty to win.
It is our duty to win.
We must love and support one another.
We must love and support one another.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
Ashe, thank you.
Ashe! So we have a few little presentations here to talk about the connections between Cuba and Black lives globally and Black lives here in the U.S. And we're going to start with Ceci Alfonso. Thank you.
Good afternoon. All of you get a little closer since we're all in this together.
Not too close.
Okay? All right, that's okay. Just wear your masks. All right. I tend to be one of those people that says, who you are, what you do, reflects what you believe. So the personal is political. And I was asked, I'm old enough to remember that, I was asked to share some of my personal perspective and experience and to also connect the dots. First of all, a little bit of the personal. I am an obviously Afro, Puerto Rican, Cuban woman born in America. I come from a Cuban father, black, and a Puerto Rican mother, black. So let me tell you a little bit about what I come from. First of all, I and you that are here come from good stock. Okay? That's why you got up today and you came here. Because you know that the personal is political. You could have been at Lake George. You could have been on at the mall. But you're here. And let me give you some of the reasons why. And this is a personal, on September 11th, I woke up in my hotel room. I looked at the TV and saw the first tower being knocked down. I went to the bathroom, came out, and saw the second tower blown up. And I said, oh shit, and I'm in Cuba. I want you to know that at that moment, I got a knock on my door. A black Cuban male came in and said, ma'am, you are in the safest place in the world. All right? And one of the reasons for that was because Cuba, like that man said to me, we didn't have a goddamn thing to do with blowing up those towers. And we do not want America to do what it did that precipitated the Spanish-American War and blame us and come in here and try to shoot us up. Number one. Number two, in that hotel room that cost $300 a night was a hotel that my grandmother could not even walk in the lobby. So the fact that I was in that hotel acting like I owned the place, and I did. And let me tell you another thing on the personal. In case you don't know this, when the Americans and the Europeans, the white folks who control Cuba, understood that the revolution was on, was when Castro walked into Cuba with the peasants, with people that looked like me, and he walked into the International Hotel with the peasants who were looking around, because remember, they had never been allowed to be in there. When the white folks went to Castro and said, okay, we're in your corner, but you got to get the colored people out of here. And he said, get them out of where? This belongs to them. That's when the white folks said, this shit is serious. And they packed up their stuff and left. Because you and I know that talk is cheap, but when you act like black folks matter, America gets scared. And that's what started. The following day, the white privileged Cubans and the Europeans packed up their shit and left. Now, one of the reasons I am so proud to be Cuban and why we stand here today is because when Cuba went into Angola, anybody knows their history? All right? Cuba went into Angola, and again, when they went into Angola, and the United States of America basically said to Cuba, I know you're supporting the Africans against the white South Africans, the Belgians, and everybody else. When he said, they said to him, yo, babe, now I'm paraphrasing, but essentially, the Americans and the Europeans said, listen, you know that we are on your butt. If you get out and let the Africans and South Africans overrule Angola, in other words, overrule and control the blacks, we will get off your ass. Cuba thought about it, so did Castro, so did Raúl, and they basically said, nah. Again, now think about this. I and you are part of a group of people who happen to be in an island right now que se llama Cuba, an island that the thing that they export today, because this country has been pissed off since that day that Cuba had the nerve to behave like the United States of America. In other words, going into other countries and fighting with the other people and for the other people. How dare you? America is the only one that can do that. But Cuba said, wait a minute. These are Africans fighting for their land, and how dare you? And you know what? Cuba has been paying for that ever since. Cuba stood up for people that look like me and look like them. And you know what Cuba said? Cuba said, hey, listen, those Africans are my Africans. Because the Portuguese brought those Africans from Angola, from the Congo, to Cuba. I have Angola African blood in me. They didn't like that. So in closing, do what the Cubans did. Stand up for humanity, and if it looks brown and black, the more, the better. Thank you.
All right, Orgullo Latino. In Spanish, that means my Latino pride. But that's something I've struggled with deep inside. A struggle I've tried to find that which is me, understanding that my roots run deeper than the Caribbean Sea. Understanding that Cuba was once referred to as Guyana, Dominican Republic, as Quisqueya, or Haiti. I can no longer say I'm just a Latino born in the Washington Heights of NYC. But before I get into my story, I always want to know what is the truth that the youth really seek, because whenever I'm in front of my younger sisters and brothers who think that their highest value at that time is their college degree, I always encourage them to take at least one class in Africana Studies. Because I understand that my awareness begins with history. Yet his story has left me in misery, wondering where it is that my people be, mi gente. So I took this journey. I sat down with some elders at their table. They brought me back into time, and it was there at the cradle that I found my true roots and felt a little more stable. See, if you don't know where you're from, then you don't know where you're going. You keep on keeping on, and they'll keep on showing you just black and just white, just political fights, the days of the slave trade and the civil rights. And I tried with all my might, but in no classroom could I find my Latino pride. That lack of education is what forced me to look deep inside, trying to find a part of me that allowed me to identify. I'm not black enough to be black or white enough to be white, but I took a deep sigh when I realized that even to call myself Hispanic or Latino in itself could be a lie. I say it's a lie because if my people weren't introduced to the term Hispanic until 1976, then what the hell were we called in 1975? So I say we got to take it back to when we was called Carib and Arawak. I say in honor of my ancestors, my great-great abuelitas and great-great abuelitos, don't call me Hispanic, don't even call me Latino, because I'm an African first, and if not that, I'm Taino. But people be like, how he be talking this Afro-Latino shit when his skin's so white? I don't identify with color though, see? I identify with culture and consciousness, and when you do that, then you know for sure what's right. So I tell my people, I hope they listen to this, a public service announcement that shouldn't be missed. My Cubans, Puerto Ricans, but most of all my Dominicans, I be in complete denial of how black they really is. And still I don't expect them to completely agree. I don't even expect them to always listen to me. I leave them with a quote that I heard by Dr. Sister Marimba Ani, who got it from Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, the one who led Ghana to first independently be free, who said, I'm an African, not because I was born in Africa, but because Africa was born in me. So 3 years ago, I was blessed with an opportunity and given a Fulbright to go study in East Africa in Tanzania. I'm rocking a Tanzania jersey, and I'm going to try to connect the dots a little bit, right? So I was born Cuban Dominican, raised by my Haitian Dominican grandmother, who really never rocked with the Dominican flag. This is all going to make sense in a minute, right? I never really understood why she didn't respect the Dominican flag as much as she respected the Haitian flag, even though we were raised as Dominicans. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that the Haitians, like the Cubans, right, were about real liberty, real independence for all enslaved and all oppressed people. And she always wanted to make sure that we understood that as young, men and women growing up, right? And so when I went to Africa 3 years ago to study curriculum development in Tanzania, I was given the term Mzungu by the people in Tanzania. Mzungu in Spanish is like a gringo, right? This is an American. This is this white boy from America. And when I told one of my professors that I was studying with at the Institute of Kiswahili that I was actually Cuban Dominican, he taught me how to say in Kiswahili, Mimi Mzungu, meaning I am not just a regular American. He told me to teach and tell the people of Tanzania that I'm Cuban. And I promise you that this shirt, they would have charged me $40 American for if I was just Mzungu, a gringo. But when I told them that I was actually Cuban, man, they gave me this shirt just on what we call GP, General Principle, right? Because in Tanzania, in East Africa, if you visit the village of Bagamoyo, you'll see the schools that the Cuban that the Cuban assistants helped build in East Africa and Tanzania, right? You see pictures of Julius Nyerere, the first president, right, of Tanzania, next to pictures of Fidel Castro. You see Che Guevara all over, right? And you see semblances of the Cuban Revolution and all of the Cuban assistants in all up and down East Africa. You are respected more in Africa for being Cuban than you are respected in East Africa for being an American, right? And why is that? Because we all know that there's a spirit of resilience, there's a spirit of resistance that travels throughout the African diaspora, right? And Cuba has always answered the call of resistance no matter where. Angola, East Africa and Tanzania, no matter what. I study and I teach 8th grade and 7th grade social studies here in Albany at a middle school. One of the texts that my scholars read is the Autobiography of Malcolm X. And one of the pictures that we study is the picture of Malcolm sitting next to Fidel Castro when Fidel was not welcome in New York City, right, in parts of the U.S. and parts of New York City. But why did Malcolm and the black community in Harlem welcome Fidel to the Teresa Hotel in Harlem? Was because we understood that that spirit of resistance was one and the same, right? That spirit of resistance was one and the same. Malcolm welcomed Fidel, talked to Fidel, spoke with him, okay? And Fidel said that downtown, he had an ice-cold reception. When he got to Harlem, it was nothing but warmth and nothing but love, right? And so that's one of the things that we try to teach our scholars, is that this spirit of Cuban resistance, of revolution, is something that we oftentimes are not going to be taught, are not going to be told, right? But we say that there's a picture that's worth 1,000 words, which means that symbols are worth 1,000 pictures, right? And so the symbolism of the Cuban Revolution, we have to continue to teach that. We have to continue, as the elder said earlier, that Puerto Rico and Cuba are one and the same, like Pedro Albizu Campos said, like the Young Lords said, when the Young Lords marched with the Black Panthers, pa'lante, siempre pa'lante. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Woo. Thank you, Lajas. Thank you. We just got to wake up a little bit, people, because the fact that we're in this moment of Black rising across the globe, not just in Albany, not just in New York State, but across the globe, in my homeland of Puerto Rico, in Brazil, in Colombia, in Cuba, in every Latin American country. And I want to say Latin American country because for those of you who think that Latin Americans are Spaniards, you are wrong. Many of us are Black. And many of us stand with Black lives here and Black lives aboard and the Cuban Revolution. And so I am here to bring forth what today means. Today is July 25th, and the Albany Cuban Solidarity Group is honoring the Cuban Revolution. But for many of us who are Black from Latin America and who are women, femmes, Black trans, and LGBT, today is the International Day of Afro-Latinoamericanos, Afro-Caribeñas, y la diaspora. It is the International Day of Afro-Latin women, Afro-Caribbean, and the diaspora, which means that today, as we are here honoring the Cuban Revolution, Black sisters are continuing in the same spirit of the Combahee River Collective, which Ceci failed to tell you that she was a part of. In the same spirit of Assata Shakur and the Black Panther movement. In the same spirit of the Young Lord movement. In the same spirit of every critical resistance that we have had in this country and abroad. Today are all virtually Skyping and meeting to talk about global international solidarity. Do you hear me? No, I don't think you hear me. Because if you heard me, you would be yelling. Do you understand what it means for Black women, Black trans, Black LGBT folks to come together? Because if we are free, then you are all free. Do Do you understand? And so today, on el Día Internacional de las Afro-Latinas and Afro-Caribeñas, I, as a Black Boricua, affirm solidarity and continue to support the Cuban Revolution. But it cannot be despite Black lives. Do you hear me? It cannot be separate from what? It cannot be separate from what? Every fucking single goddamn fucking day. Do you hear me? Every day. Do not be fooled. Do not be fooled. The independence of my country cannot be without what? That's right. Do you understand me? And so we are here in this critical moment, literally going into the next legacy of what those revolutions look like. We are here now, today, representing what Black liberation means. Because if it means Black liberation for us in Africa, in the hoods of Harlem, which is my home, in Troy, New York, which I've made my home, in Albany, New York, then it is everywhere. And we have got to have that analysis that brings us without these goddamn border walls. Do you understand me? We have got to. One of my mentors, Assata Shakur, may she rest in peace, said to me, Luce, we have got to speak the language of all the colonizers. Why? Because my people have been raped and forced to speak English, Portuguese, French, Creole, and every motherfucking language you could think of that separates us as Black people, and you all are thinking I'm Spanish. Do you understand? We have got to end that shit. We've got Black people across the world. Across the world. And that is why this country, this current president, and many white racist extremists are scared. In 1981, Black feminists in Cuba created what's called the first gathering of Black Latin women from Latin America and the Caribbean. That meeting then led to 1992 declaring July 25th as the International Day of Black Women from Latin America. That is today, 28 years later, that my sisters, our sisters, all our people, whether you deem them that or not, and whether or not you think they have a vagina or not, I don't give a fuck. But Black women are leading this motherfucker. And we look and speak every language, and we bring all of our issues. Because unless our bodies and our land is seen as sacred, then nothing else is going to be liberated or sacred. Nothing. And so, as my daughter led you in that chant, I want to remind you that the movement for Black lives is rooted in the movement for Black lives, which is certainly in solidarity with the Cuban Revolution always. It is not a surprise to me that Assata Shakur got sanctuary there. It should never be a surprise to any of us, and it should never be a surprise that whenever we talk about the Cuban Revolution, we include the Black Panther Party honorary Assata Shakur. And that we begin to expand how we think about Black lives. And what does that mean? That does not just mean Blacks in America. That means Black in every goddamn continent in this world. Because once we do that, we will not be hopeless. We will see the fight, and we will be clearer about what the goal is. We will be clearer. The transatlantic slave trade didn't just come to America. The shit went every fucking where. Everywhere. And I need you all to understand that. I look the way I do because my ancestors were raped. Do you understand me? Lahas look like he do because the ancestors were raped. But politically, we have our heart in Africa in the same way Cuba does as well. And so we have to follow that. And we have to stop this idea that we're talking about able-bodied straight people. We are talking about all Black lives. All Black lives. None are disposable, ever. And so if they're killing Black men here, they're killing Black men in Brazil, they're killing Black, right? They're killing black people as well, and black women, and most of all, our children, slowly. And so I thank you for allowing me to be here and to bring my day in connection with Cuba. But there's so many connections, and we better start making them. Because if we miss them, then we miss critical opportunities to continue the legacy that folks like Naomi and Ceci and Barbara Smith and Audre Lorde and yes, Assata began for us. And so we cannot. So we're going to open up our eyes. We're going to listen to some badass music from Taina Asili. Yes? Okay, good. And I'm going to turn it over. And so thank you.